Dungeons & Dragons worlds have kings. They have maps, they have ancient ruins, they have monsters in the wild. But some of them are missing something, and that's organization. I'm talking about groups in the shadows, hunters who take on contracts, mages who regulate magic, sailors who control the trade, and a hundred other options. I'm talking about guilds here. Guilds are sort of like jobs in Dungeons and Dragons, but not the terrifying 9 to 5 kind of job. You're not running a tavern or you're not teaching at a bard's college. Instead, you're taking on contracts and quests through a themed organization. For example, a fighter's guild might focus on hunting monsters, while a mage's guild might focus on studying arcane knowledge out in the world. In today's video, I'm going to break down how guilds should work in Dungeons & Dragons. I'll put some comparisons from video games like Skyrim, and I'll also go over how the newer Dungeons & Dragons 2024 rule set handles guilds and factions. After that, we'll build our own guild from scratch using what we learned in this video. We're doing all that on this episode of World Building with a Human Man. This is a video series where I help you break down your D&D worlds, making them feel a little bit more alive. And if you're new here, I'm the D&D Hunter, a regular human man, definitely not a mind flayer. This mustache is very much a real mustache. So, let's talk about guilds. I hope you got your job applications filled out here, your resumes printed and ready.
Resume, I believe, the past part is...
Because guilds are basically the jobs of D&D worlds. Yes, you can run a tavern, you can teach at a college, and you can do all sorts of things like that. But Dungeons & Dragons, you're likely going to be adventuring out into the world.
I'm going on an adventure!
So adventurers usually are traveling around, which means leaving your place of work is difficult to do. Guilds solve that problem. They act more like freelance organizations that you can take contracts from and leave when the adventure calls. You can jump in and out of them much more easier than running a tavern where you have to be there every morning for opening. That's not to say that regular jobs can't work in D&D. For those watching Campaign 4 of Critical Role, I like to call this party here Team 9 to 5, since everyone here seems to have an actual job. But guilds make it easier for adventurers to come and go as they please. Guilds are essentially organized factions focused around a certain specialty. They give out quests related to that theme. Some guilds are official organizations with larger buildings, banners, and recruitment efforts in the major cities. Think of them like apply today to join the Hunters Guild. Others are far more secretive, like Thieves Guilds or Assassins Guilds. These groups are hidden, and the only way to join them is through discovery, or by having the guild notice you first and seek you out. In my own campaigns, I've created a few guilds before. I've had a Thieves Guild that I call the Golden Badger, and I've had a Sailing Guild that helped my party navigate ports and safer harbors. But if I'm being honest, these guilds mostly stayed in the background. They existed in my world, they had names, they had organizations, but they didn't really shape the world like I wanted them to. They felt more like side quests than real organizations. My players had little reason to care about them because the rewards weren't that interesting. They'd rather continue the main storyline than pause to pickpocket old people for the Golden Badger. I realized I wasn't using guilds to their full potential, and the game that made me realize this was 2 years ago when I started replaying Skyrim for the 100th time. Skyrim does guilds extremely well. The Companions, the Thieves Guild, the Dark Brotherhood, the Dawn Guard, these are factions you can join or oppose. Most major cities in Skyrim also have guild hubs. Whiterun is home to the Companions, which function like the Fighters Guild. Winterhold houses the College of Winterhold, which is essentially a mages guild. And these guilds have quests and rewards, but more importantly, they have stories, and that's the key that I want to talk about here. These places are not just places that you walk in, get a quest, walk out. They're not menus. They are a storyline. They have mysteries, they have secrets. The Companions, for example, they start with simple warrior contracts, but eventually you uncover the truth that everyone in the Companions are werewolves. The Dawnguard begins as vampire hunter storylines, which is fun on its own, but as the story grows, you learn about the conflict involving ancient vampire artifacts and plans to take out the sun. Suddenly, that guild storyline feels a lot more important than the main storyline. That's what I want for our Dungeons & Dragons guilds. Give them stories, give them secrets, give them suspicious leaders, hidden motives, allies, enemies. Turn their guild halls into a place filled with discovery, hidden rooms, strange artifacts, and mysteries that players uncover over time. All that being said, though, there is one thing in Skyrim that I would avoid bringing into Dungeons and Dragons, and that is joining every guild at once. In Skyrim, you can lead the College of Winterhold, you could run the Thieves Guild, you can command the Dark Brotherhood, and you can become a Vampire Lord. All at once, at the same time, like back to back to back. And that is very video gamey. It's good for Skyrim, it's good because it is a video game, but for Dungeons and Dragons, I would limit this a lot. Maybe a character can join one or maybe two guilds at once, depending on your dungeon master. But running every guild in the world probably isn't the best approach. It doesn't make sense. I would still bring a lot of guilds into your world. I would bring an Assassin's Guild along with a Mage's Guild, along with an Arcane Guild, like a lot of different variety, but have your players choose what they would like to be a part of. Because if they say all of it, I would say Skyrim is available for every console ever made. So go, and a fridge, so go play that. Now in this book right here, Heroes of Faerûn, which came out a couple months ago, Dungeons and Dragons dives deep into factions like Harpers, the Purple Knights, the Red Wizards. These organizations function very similarly to guilds. The book explains how to join them, how ranks work, what benefits members receive, and even what strongholds and special items they have access to. You can absolutely use any of these factions directly into your D&D games, that's what they're designed for. But in this video, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be building our own guild, and the way we'll be doing this is by taking this book here and making it sort of the blueprint. I'm going to go with the Harpers for the example here. The Harpers, and honestly most factions in this book, are organized into several key categories. By following these categories, we can design a guild that feels structured, immersive, and ready to play in a campaign. So let's create a guild that could fit in almost any Dungeons & Dragons world. An adventuring guild. A guild that sends heroes into ancient ruins, dungeon depths, and forgotten strongholds in search for magical artifacts and lost knowledge. Allow me to introduce the one I will be focusing on today, which I am calling the Moustached Adventure Guild. Everyone in this guild gets a pin with our logo, based on my iconic real mustache. But don't let the facial hair fool you. This is an elite organization of relic hunters, ruin breakers, and dungeon delvers dedicated to one purpose: entering dangerous places and retrieving powerful artifacts before they fall into the wrong hands. Now let's go through the categories from the Harper's blueprint and use them to build our guild. If you want to make your own guild, you can kind of follow along the steps that I'll be taking here and adapt each step to fit your campaign and the guild you are building. You don't have to do the Moustached Adventuring Guild here. I'm just using that as my own personal example to let you guys see how I'm going to be building my guild. If you want after, follow along and do it for your Mage's Guild or your Barbaric Guild or your Mind Flayer Guild, which would be pretty cool. Step 1 is core identity. This is simply the explanation of what your guild is and what its purpose is. The Moustached Adventure Guild believes ancient power should not remain buried, but it also should not remain unguarded. History should be studied and preserved, while dangerous relics are controllable and cataloged. Publicly, they are celebrated explorers and historians. Privately, they maintain a vast archive of magical artifacts recovered from ancient ruins. Try to think of what is public knowledge to your guild and what isn't public knowledge to your guild. Number 2 is goals and activities. This section explains exactly what the guild does. For my guild, the main goal is simple. Recover magical or lore-heavy artifacts from dungeons, lost civilizations, abandoned castles, forgotten vaults, and so on and so forth. This leads to missions such as racing rival guilds to ancient ruins, clearing cursed strongholds, escorting dangerous artifacts to secure vaults, or deciding whether certain relics should be destroyed instead of preserved. Next is number 3, which is guild code. Many guilds have a short set of guiding phrases or oaths that represents their beliefs. On brightest day kind of thing.
In blackest night.
For Harpers, one of their oaths is no one is free until all are free. So that's kind of what they live by. For our guild, I might use phrases like power uncovered is power contained, or no relic left in reckless hands, or we delve so others do not fall, or I'll stop there. These are fun to come up with. I actually wrote a ton of them down, and I'm just gonna skip this part of the script and move on because my god, I wrote too many. It is fun to come up with though. This is the oath that your guild members would swear by, die for, and this is what represents your guild entirely. Come up with the code. Next is leadership and organization. Even loose guilds usually have some structure. Maybe there's a guild master who rarely leaves the headquarters, along with field captains, veteran members, new recruits. For the Moustached Adventure Guild, the leader might be a mysterious and charismatic man with an enormous Dr. Eggman-style mustache who rarely shows his face. Perhaps he always wears a hood, which raises a question. How does he know where all these ancient relics are? Is he really a human? Or is he some sort of mind flare in disguise? We're going to move on from that. We're getting a little too personal here. Come up with a leader, come up with some people in your guild that have higher ranks, just to kind of give your guild a lot more of a voice than just a location. Number 5 is strongholds. This is where your guild is based in. You can have major buildings in major cities, you can have your city sort of hidden in forests, you can have them be very public and outstanding with large banners, or more so hidden in the shadows.
What is life's greatest illusion?
For my guild, the headquarters might be built directly above a sealed ancient dungeon, which is either poetic or deeply concerning. Inside the guild, you'd have your main lobby area with a lot of seating areas for people just to kind of hang out and chat. You can have trophy halls of recovered relics, research wings full of scholars, a war room covered in ruin maps, or a massive archive containing magical artifacts and ancient texts. Just kind of make it like a bastion, theme it up a little bit. Number 6 is joining the guild. Many factions in Faerûn don't allow people to simply apply. It literally says that in this Forgotten Realms book right here. Instead, they recruit promising individuals, like they seek out the party. For the Moustached Adventure Guild, the candidate might be required to complete a test to join. It's not just, you walk in, here's my resume, I worked at Best Buy for a few years, what do you think, can I have an interview? It's not like that, you gotta do a test to get in. That test could be a dangerous D&D-like quest, like delving into a dungeon, recovering an artifact, and most importantly, for my guild, you have to surrender that artifact willingly at the end of it. If they succeed, then they are invited to meet the guildmaster and officially join. So come up with some sort of quiz to join. It can't just be like, I want to join, here's a uniform, get out there and make some cash. Like, come up with something there. Number something, whatever you see on screen here, I guess. I didn't write down the numbers in my script because, is signature mechanic. Every guild should give its members something unique. For example, the Harpers, as you rise in their ranks, they get the Harper pin, which you can see in like the D&D movie. It's iconic. Of every Harper that passes, well, not every Harper, but most Harpers that pass you in Faerûn, you might notice a Harper pin on them. There are a variety of different Harper pins as well that give magical benefits depending on their rank. Gold and silver do different things. These are things that you gain throughout the quest lines of Harpers that I'll get into in the next segment of this video. But come up with a signature mechanic that makes your guild kind of unique and stand out. Members of the Moustached Adventure Guild might bear a magical sigil, a stylized mustache symbol. This mustache could be a real mustache, or it could be a pin that you just put on your cape or cloak or clothes. This mark glows faintly in the presence of powerful artifacts, records relics recovered by the bearer, and grants minor resistance within ancient ruins. It's a lot more fun if you give it a little bit of a magical twist rather than it just being the comedian's pin here. Therefore, it has a use, but it's also something that you wear with pride. You know, I am proud to be a part of this guild, and not something that you would necessarily hide away unless you're in an area that a lot of people don't like you. Next is renown and progression. I talked about this a lot in my review for Forgotten Realms Heroes of Faerûn. It is a system that I think is pretty cool for guilds, and I'd like to bring that into our own guilds that we're building here today. As members complete guild missions, their reputation grows, which means their renown points grow, and they're able to progress the ranks of their guild. It's all about ranking and leveling up in a way. At lower ranks, they gain things like lodging and access to dungeon supplies. Later, they unlocked restricted maps, magical gear discounts, and leadership roles on expeditions. Higher ranks bring influence, authority, and access to guild's most dangerous secrets. And when you get to the top, which is 50 points according to this book, then you can talk about the whole Skyrim thing of potential leadership in certain factions throughout the setting that you're in for D&D, which opens a whole new door to secrets within the Harpers or the Moustached Adventure Guild or your guild. The final step in this little blueprint area that we're doing here today is trinkets and flavor. These are very small details. You don't have to do this part, but it does bring life to your guild. It's all about bringing in items that you would notice on a lot of guild members. Maybe members carry brass compasses that spin near hidden doors, or a folded maps update as ruins collapse. Journals filled with sketches or strange artifacts, just things that you would notice on certain members that would point out that they are a part of this guild. For the Harpers, it does mention the Harper's pin, it mentions quills, it mentions the blue capes that they wear, just little things to identify yourself as a Harper. These items can also be placed around guild halls or just guilds in general, just brings a little bit more identity than just a uniform. Because Dungeons & Dragons characters have a big thing on customization. You want your D&D character to look like how you imagine them. If you have a certain outfit that you want to wear, I wouldn't replace that with a guild outfit. I would more so just have a certain icon like a sash, a pin, a cape, a hat, a mustache. Little details, little trinkets to put on your character that isn't ruining your character's appearance that they came up with. Because in the end, the player's character is something that they designed, and they might not want to change it just because they want to join a guild. So yeah, just small details, but big immersion. And that's all the blueprints here. I think my Dungeoneer guild here, the Moustached Adventure Guild, works extremely well in Dungeons & Dragons because it justifies dungeon crawling narratively. It can also introduce rival players, factions, characters that are also hunting in dungeons looking for artifacts, which can create its own storyline. If you enter the dungeon to retrieve this artifact, but all that's left behind is a note, that can create a story on its own. You were hired by the guild to retrieve this artifact, but someone got there first, and now you're hunting down this person instead of adventuring into the next dungeon. So go out there and create your guilds. Create them spread out across the country. Don't make just one stronghold in one city. It's good to have guild members spread out. You have a sense of satisfaction as you've been traveling the world for several sessions, and you see the amaze on your players' faces as they finally arrive in a town and discover a familiar guild hall is waiting for them here. Or if they're on the road and someone's approaching them at night around their campfire, you get ready to roll for initiative only to find the people approaching you are fellow guild members.
I am hungry.
It can be a good time to create new allies and create new enemies for your party. And that's how you can build your own guilds in Dungeons & Dragons. Whether it's monster hunters, secret assassins, or mustached relic hunters, guilds can turn your world into a collection of locations, into a network of living organizations, into new allies, friends, and potential rivals. And if you enjoyed this episode of World Building with a Human Man, please consider subscribing for more Dungeons & Dragons content. I make new videos every single week here on this channel, and I have a playlist in the description below for more videos on this sort of world building topic. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.